Zeri, what a champion, ladies and gentlemen. I make the joke a lot of the time that Riot being based in California, they like to grab the at least 5 pounds of marijuana, put it into the air vents, and just hotbox the entire Riot HQ. In my mind, the only thing that explains why Senna's souls change every other patch is that these dudes are so high. They're so absolutely blasted off the devil's lettuce that they've gained the ability to time travel. The entire Riot HQ turned into the magic school bus. Right now they're probably like in the Crusades or something, balancing Senna's the least of their worries. Or at least that was my reaction when I saw they were making Zeri's W crit as well. With that said, some of you may have seen my earlier coverage of this champion from about a month ago where I said crit Zeri was absolutely terrible and should be defamed. Funny how this turned into a trilogy of sorts, and now the narrative has come full circle because Zeri's absolutely broken. Again, I have to say it just in case, I absolutely stand by what I said because it is absolutely true for the time I made the first video. A month ago, this champion was terrible. I didn't know they were going to do this. Guys, if I knew, do you think I would have subjected myself to... Come on. Do you guys think I enjoyed having to deal with the people that think that because they have a high win rate on a bad champion, it makes the champion good? Yeah, ask the guys in silver who have a 70% win rate on Belveth how good that champion is. Oh, they'll tell you Christmas came early. They'll finally be able to break out of silver too and start their ascension to the LCS. Ask anyone above platinum and they'll say, it's just Riot in the magic school bus again. That champion is unplayable. So to round out the trilogy and give the narrative a satisfying conclusion, we're going to talk about exactly what happened to Zeri. What is it that made her so broken that she had to get hotfixed? Then we're going to talk about the builds that she can take right now and what in my opinion is the best way to build her right now. Lastly, we're going to talk about what impacts the nerfs are coming next patch are going to have on Zeri. So first up, what happened with Zeri? Well, it's actually not just the buffs that aided her in being this broken. So broken in fact that she reached almost a 40% ban rate at one point. Jesus Christ. Season 3 Cassidy is just nodding his head like a proud father. But I think her state is mostly a combination of the buffs alongside the impact durability had on bot lane as a whole. Obviously the buffs pretty much doubled her damage across the board. That's obviously a big part of it. And don't let the kids with a 65% win rate on Zeri over 200 games, who are also the same guys with the Navy SEALs with over 200 confirmed kills in Afghanistan, don't listen to them because this champion needed buffs. Zeri felt absolutely pathetic in terms of damage. If you look at the numbers, it actually backs up everything I said in my original video about defaming crit Zeri. Her damage numbers and scalings were gross. I know a lot of people don't actually look at the patch notes. They just go to their streamer of choice and have them tell them what to think. I personally go to Amaranth for my patch notes, or at least I think that's what she's talking about. Honestly, I don't really focus on what she's saying too much. But if you look at the numbers, they originally nerfed her Q by half. By half. They literally cut her damage in half. But I have a 65% win rate. Oh, you Gorsh. Oh, you Scooby Snacks. Like I was saying, they nerfed her damage in half, but they increased her scalings, again trying to push her more towards the crit variance. Except she scaled by 2.5% AD per level. And that's why I noticed when I played her that you pretty much couldn't go a Zeal item because you needed the extra AD to make up for the fact they nerfed her base damage in half. And that still wasn't enough. She felt so weak, especially as I said at one item. What happens at one item? Well, she's around level 9. What happens at level 9? She finishes maxing Q. That's why she felt so awful in the mid game. I mean, no matter what you did, you were always just trying to catch up in terms of damage because she just... 2.5 scaling isn't good enough to keep up with the game at that point in time. Durability patch made that a little better. Obviously less damage in the game means she's not as far behind in terms of damage as she was before. Fast forward to the buffs, and what makes her so much better now? Well, they doubled her scalings. They gave her some of her base damage back. Now everyone can agree they overshot it a little bit with the damage, so they hotfixed her. But I like what they did here, and they nerfed her not lessening her damage, but actually just lowering the ceiling of her damage. That's a good change. You know they were sober when they made that one. That's actually a really good change. It's not like when Lee Sin went top lane and his E did 200 damage at level 4 and insta-cleared waves, and then they nerfed his E by upping the cooldown by 1 second. Yeah, you sure showed him right. Zeri needed buffs. The champion was terrible. Now, let me be specific. Her Q needed buffs. Her passive buffs, I can honestly take them or leave them. They clearly overbuffed it, so it's good that they went back on it. But honestly, I didn't really mind where it was before. But her W, if we actually just look right here at this Jinx, the Magic School Bus is back at it again. I took her back in time to before durability with 1,000 damage in 2 seconds. The thing about this is I'm okay with her W doing damage, considering she has no abilities that do damage. Because, I mean, technically she has 3 abilities, right? Because her Q is basically her auto attack. So she has 3 abilities. One is a dash, the other empowers her auto attacks. It has that initial burst, but that's not really a lot of damage. So I think her W actually doing damage is fine. But the problem it runs into is that, 1, yes, it's too much damage as it stands right now. And 2 is that it's cheap damage. Like, damage for no reason, almost. When Ezreal hits you with a Q at level 9, it does 350, 400 damage. You're okay with it, because it's Ezreal, he can't shoot it through minions, and he has to be somewhere on your screen giving you full information. That's not the case with Zeri. She does not care about any of that shit. The thing is, I agree with making her W do damage. I think it should do damage. But the problem with balancing it is that you can only do 2 things. You can make it a utility ability, or you can make it do damage. You can make it a slow, or you can make it burst. They said they were trying to push her out of the utility and make her more into a pure carry, but then that means her W is just going to do a lot of stupid damage, just a lot of cheap damage. In teamfights, I think her W actually has a lot of nuance and specific play patterns and stuff, and, you know, knowing the angles and positioning and all that to truly utilize it to its full potential. But outside of teamfights, it's just cheap. It's just stupid damage. It's just dumb. And that's it for the buffs. But like I said in the second part of the trilogy, durability actually made Zeri better even without the buffs. Fights are longer, so her kiting has more value, whereas before, you know, the fact she didn't burst people in a meta that was about burst felt really bad. Another thing that durability impacted was her matchups. Zeri is still really weak early levels. 1 through 5 is the weakest point in the game for Zeri. She can be easily abused. But I think most of her really punishing matchups got worse with durability. Except Senna. Obviously that champ is just busted up, but you know. But all her other bad matchups like Trist, Draven, Samira, Lucian, Nami all got worse with durability. All the other top 80 carries Zeri does pretty well into, or just goes even, so making her not as easily punished as she was before, which just guarantees she gets to those 2 or 3 items relatively healthy. Next up on the topic list today is builds. First off, I don't know how many of you guys ever maxed E second on Zeri. Well, you should stop doing it because it's terrible. Max W for fairly obvious reasons at this point. Maxing E doesn't really provide anything other than cooldown, and even if you max it, it's still a long ass cooldown, so just max W second from now on. Now the build. Again, I don't know how many of you build any Zeal items on Zeri. Stop doing it. Like I said earlier, what you want to do is you want to maximize your damage. Zeri doesn't really need attack speed. Her ult is all the attack speed she needs. Phantom Dancer is just luxury. She doesn't need more movement speed. As for wave clear, it is still a problem with Zeri, but I've kind of lessened my stance on the wave clear since the defamed video, because a lot of the time you can make up for it with your W, you know, hitting walls and stuff. So I've lessened my stance. Her wave clear is bad, but not as bad. Not to the point where you need to build Runon's Hurricane. So what I like to do instead is do one of 2 things. Shield Bow into LDR, then IE, or Shield Bow into Essence Reaver, then IE. Depending on the enemy team comp, obviously if they have tankier champions, you take Essence Reaver. I still think Infinity Edge is essential, especially with her W critting, since it also increases that damage. You're just getting a lot of value for IE. On top of the fact that Zeri actually wants to be at 100% crit because of her ult stacks, not building IE to maximize the damage that you're doing is pretty troll in my humble opinion. After that is kind of where it gets tricky. I personally think that after 3 items you just go with full tank on some Kog'Maw vibes. That feels pretty good for me, though I'm not going to say I'm super confident that that's correct. That just feels good to me. I also have to mention Kraken Slayer and the AP build. I attempted a game with Kraken Slayer, but then my support kept flaming me for doing so, and it kind of hurt my feelings, so I decided not to try it anymore. Actually, Zeri was just permabanned because the champion is kind of broken, so yeah, I think Kraken is... Kraken? Who? Kraken? Who's Kraken? Who? Anyway, I think Kraken is good. The AP build is interesting, and I haven't gotten much of a chance to go it. Again, Zeri's kind of broken, so she's permaban. It actually sounds pretty interesting, though, but I can't speak on how good it is exactly. Maybe that's a video for another day, actually. But lastly, on the Zeri talk, is how damaging are the nerfs that are coming. So for those of you who did not see what the nerfs are, hopefully I'm not lazy and I can put them on the screen. But they're basically nerfing her W and then randomly her health regen. I don't know why. Like, again, it's just it's the magic school bus, because it literally, there's no explanation. I don't know why. It literally makes no sense. Now her W nerf is the thing that most people should be taking note of. But if you actually look at the numbers, it's not that bad. It really isn't. I've been seeing the Zeri mains having a meltdown over these nerfs. Even the Zeri mains have to admit her W does too much damage. Okay, and again, in terms of a balance standpoint, the fact that it is such a cheap damage as well, like, it makes it a problem. Personally, I think this doesn't do anything for how good Zeri is. I think she's still fine. Her W has never been the thing that she hinged on to be viable. Like I said, it's her Q that needed buffs. They gave her the buffs, and I can say the champion at level 9 actually feels really good. She feels like she can skirmish, win trades, actually chase down kills. You're running around, shooting the enemy team, and their health bars are actually going down. It's absolutely incredible. She doesn't need her W damage, and the game doesn't need it to be that high. I think it should be damage. I think, again, it should do damage instead of it being a slow. Again, it's her only damaging ability. It's only if she hits it against the wall first. I think it's fine for it to do some damage. But it could not stay as it was, and I think these nerfs are fine. The champion's still going to be strong. Like I said, even the buffs, even before the buffs, Zeri was on the cusp of being, I would say, a B tier champion. Then the buffs to her Q made her into an A tier, and then the meta made her an S tier champion. She doesn't need W, she'll be fine. Though I guess that's a bad thing for everyone other than the Zeri mains, because I can see how this champion might not be the most fun to play against. I'll give you that. And that concludes the Zeri trilogy. We have come a long way since it started. I once thought this champion vaped cock, but I have truly come to love this champion. My LP, however, not so much. For some reason, every time I play this champion, my top laners decide it's a good spot to wish upon a dragon scale, because it's time for dragon tails, and just proceed to smash their keyboard against their fucking face, resulting in this Stitch bitch being 8-0, and no matter how fed I am, I'm still an AD carry, so I lose those. But anyway, that's the end of the video. Thank you guys for watching. Leave me a like, and I'll do absolutely nothing in return out of pure respect for you as an esteemed viewer of mine. And anyway, roll the outro, bitch. Bitch.